Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Sorry, I'm late. I was cataloging comics, and I was in the zone. How you doing? Thank you for coming, Michael.
Pleasure to be here. No, it's fine. Yeah, sometimes you just get in it and everything else disappears.
Yeah, I know. That's the way I get. I'm sure I don't have to explain that to comic book people.
With the amount of comics you have that I've seen, it sounds like a big task.
Yeah. My hard drive collapsed, and I lost my database, and I've been scanning in my comic books, and I sent the message 1 hour, and then 5 minutes later, an hour went by. So anyway, so thank you. Thank you for coming on my channel. I
Thanks for having me.
Video as if it's people's first time, and for a lot of people, it is their first time. So introduce yourself. Who's Michael Bancroft?
I am a artist and writer of a independent creator-owned comic called The Lucent. I'm a long-time comic book fan, going back to 11. I dipped out for the longest time.
Yeah.
And was just sort of collecting back issues and stuff for really a long time until YouTube brought me back to comic books in about 2017.
2017.
That's a lot short of it. Yeah, around about your boy Zach time.
Yeah, it's funny. Your boy Zach seemed to get a lot of people back interested in I think it's that.
Oh yeah.
He expressed a lot of. He vocalized a lot of things that people were thinking. Like I know a lot of people have problems with Zach, and I'm not one of them. For some reason, the algorithm picked me up, and I got on board with him like around the third or fourth video, and he just
me too.
He had his biggest gift, if you ask me, is he could encapsulate these thoughts and crystallize them in as few words as possible. Like I really think he's just like a focus. That's the word I was this. He's good at focusing thoughts. And I was amazed.
I was sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I wasn't really focused on what the mainstream comics are doing because I was working on my own one. I was focused on making a webtoon and stuff like that. So, but because I was into that, I guess the algorithm, pushed me onto his feed, and I was paying attention to the culture war at the time and all that sort of stuff. I'm breaking up.
Yeah. Everybody in the audience, am I breaking up, or is it Michael?
One of us are. I think we're fine now.
Okay, good. So
I think we're fine.
So
we did go a bit blurry for a moment there, but I think we're good.
Not good. All right. So we got off to a rough start. All right. So what's the name of your comic? First of all, let's get that out there.
It's called The Lucent.
And you're the writer and the artist.
There are two books in it so far. There's Waking Dream and Paint to Death. I am the writer and the artist. Yes.
That is awesome. I wish I could draw so bad. I'm terrible. I tried, not for lack of trying. And the link is in the description for anybody who's interested in the
Lucent. It's a daily struggle.
Yes. Let's make Michael a millionaire. Let's sell his comics. A rising tide floats all boats. You know what I mean? I think everybody should be rich who makes comics. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So you're Australian. Did you have like regular American comics right off the shelf on a spinner racks and everything? Australia, I know nothing about the Australian market.
Oh yeah,
regular Marvels, regular DC.
Yeah, in 1991, everything. I went to my friend's place and they had all these comics, and I knew a lot of the characters just from cartoons and stuff like that. Yeah, Spider-Man, Superman, everyone knows. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. They had G.I. Joe, which we knew of as well. I didn't know that was a comic. Iron Man, never heard of him before.
Really?
And a few others. Thor, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So yeah, we have here what are called news agencies, which are these big stores. You get magazines, newspapers, and it had what would now be the equivalent of a really big, good new comic book section in a comic book store, a comic book section just for the general public. and these were in every shopping strip, every shopping mall, everywhere, all over the country. And you just walk in. Comic books were $1.30 Australian at the time, which I think was about on parity with what the US were paying. And I walked in. I thought, oh, Spider-Man, I know that. Picked it up, yeah, and I was hooked ever since.
Oh wow, wow, so that's cool. So it sounds like, because 1991 comics, in America anyway, comics, you had to go to comic book stores, and at the time I thought it was the coolest thing, because I was working, but the average person from the street, unless you woke up and said, I feel like getting comic books, you didn't just get newbie people. But I like your setup, newbie. Like you said, you hanging out with your mom and dad, going through the store, and you see comic books, that looks interesting to you. I think America, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot with comic book stores. As much as I
it
love
was like that all the way up. It was like that. I think we got a delay here. That's why I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay.
It was like that all the way up till about the mid-90s, I think, when the whole bankruptcy thing started to loom. That's when they pulled back and just ended up in the comic book shops.
Oh, so you did have comic book stores in Australia. Are they still a big thing?
We did as well. Yeah. As big as they are in the US, I imagine, which is sort of,
at one point, every store, every store, every town boasted at least one good comic book store. And it would, but now they're few and far between. And I don't know about Australia, but it seems like out here where I live, all the comic book stores are back issue stores. They don't really carry too many. Yeah. Is it the same out there?
Depends. It really depends. We've actually lost a lot of our good back issue places. They're not as big as they used to be. But there's fewer cities in Australia. So if you're in a major city, like most things are going to gravitate towards that. So we do actually have quite a few good shops. I've got one just around the corner from me. Great people. They collect all kinds of back issues and original art, plus everything else. The only problem is I'm no longer really interested in the product that's coming out. So.
It's you're on the other side of the planet for me, and it sounds like we have the same story. I don't know how I tell the story every once in a while, but in 2015, I forget exactly what month it was, I was spending about $400 a month on comic books, much to my wife's chagrin, and I was getting them from the discount comic book service, because living in Queens, you can't drive any place there's no parking and stuff. So it was just easier to get them shipped to my house. And this big freaking box comes off the UPS truck, and my wife just happened to see it. And I lived in a 3-story walk up, no elevator or anything like that. So she's carrying this box of comics. The seam is breaking, comics are slipping out. Luckily, my nephew just happened to see my wife's crying. She's picking up this box. She brings it into the house, and she's like, look at this, it's ridiculous. And I'm opening up the comics, and I'm like, I just spent $400. I was trying to hope that the box would get here before my wife showed up. And now I'm sorting, and I'm like, I don't even like these. I like, look at this big hassle. My wife's crying, carrying a box up the stairs. My nephew has to help. Now I'm ashamed. And the kicker was, I'm like, I'm not even excited to read any. And it was cold turkey. I paid my obligation. Whatever I ordered, I paid for, but I didn't order anything new for Marvel or DC. I was done, cold turkey.
Yeah, I was about the same. I think the last thing I had on my pull list was the new Watchmen series. The art. I was a fan of the original Watchmen. I think most people, whether they love it or whatever. I was interested, and the art looked really good. And then I was left waiting, and the shop was like, "Oh, maybe you get this," and I just found like I wasn't really that interested in what they were showing me, and I was getting really big into Comicsgate books and crowdfunded books, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take my money there, because I don't mind waiting, and I'm busy making my own comics. So it was a shame. Yeah, I wasn't $400 a month, but I was taking the kids in, $75 a month, something like that. There were good books for a little bit, and then that was actually one of the things that Zach helped with. He was someone I felt like I could trust to say, "Oh, this will be fine. This is a joke. Leave this alone." And then eventually, even he was like, "Screw it. There's barely anything worth talking about anymore."
Remember that hashtag a couple of weeks ago? Comics broke me.
Yeah.
I think without realizing it, Zach Comics broke him because he's not reviewing comics anymore. He's just, he doesn't even really talk about comics that much.
There's not much to talk about. And every day there's another. I think Patrick Zurcher just came out, just saying basically the same stuff that we've all been saying. It's like the writers don't care. They're not interested. They don't read the back issues when they get a new job, and it's all meaningless now. So the whole spark has just evaporated from the whole thing.
It's funny that you mentioned Patrick Zurcher because I've been a fan of Patrick Zurcher since '83 or so. He drew I play a role-playing game called Villains and Vigilantes, and he drew characters in a module, so I always remembered his name. So I always followed his career for 40 years now. And then today I just invited him. Hey, would you like to come on my channel and talk? And I guess he investigated me because 5 minutes later I'm blocked. So guys complaining about comic book sales. I'm going to go on the internet right now. I challenge anybody to. I've been his fan longer than anybody on the planet, and now I'm blocked. So there you go.
And the crazy thing is, they're saying the same stuff that we've been saying.
He's saying the same exact thing that we're saying. I caught a little bit of. I'm joking when I say a little bit of help from our side by saying I would love to have panel and talk because I would like to have a reasonable, good faith discussion. Like if they came on and called me a Nazi and stuff like that, then what am I going to do? But like a real conversation, I just explained to them, Comicsgate is your creation. You created us. We're your Frankenstein's monster. You're Victor von Frankenstein. We're the creature. And we just want to love comic books, and you're the ones going nuts and yelling and screaming. And
I would just get guys like that face to face. I would love on the internet, because clearly on the internet, especially over Twitter, well, that happens. But just say, look, what you just said there, what you just tweeted out, which I liked today. He hasn't blocked me yet. He obviously hasn't investigated me. I didn't invite him on my show. I said, what you said just then, okay, people were saying that in 2017, and because no one wanted to hear it, the industry turned and said, oh, well, you're only saying that because you're a this, that, and whatever.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So that's what started this whole thing. All of that stuff is noise. It's fake. It's made up. It's to distract you. It's distract the industry from all the issues, and so you can have a scapegoat and blame it all. Oh, it's all because of these toxic fans and everything. It's ridiculous.
Hard to blame yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing in the world to blame yourself. And I think it was Sean. The first I heard was Shane Davis's wife. Why can't Yancy?
Yancy.
Yeah, Yancy. She said, and I was like, wow, she's really spot on. She said that she thinks that the whole Nazi, istophobe, whatever, was a way to control them from leaving. You know what I mean?
It's a fog. Exactly.
You know what I mean? They couldn't build a fence around the mainstream, but they could tell you, like, that's what's going to happen if you leave. You know what I mean? They already knew we had reached freedom. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. We got out, and they don't want you to peer over. I always call it the fog. I call it the fog of kind of misinformation. They don't want you to see through what's happening over there. And we see now a huge number of the most talented people who working in mainstream still are actually abandoning ship and going creator owned, because they can see, well, I can actually make decent money selling directly to smaller audiences, sure. And then there's the hope that, hey, if this ever becomes anything big, I own it. I can get rich off this. They're just like, well, why am I wasting talent where I have to keep my mouth shut and pretend like it's just a normal thing if someone criticizes me that they turn around and call that person? And it is a fog. It's a wall that they put up to stop anyone from basically escaping the their clutches.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I see a couple of people like Johnny. I thought I hit a button. Johnny Slate, it would have been great to have Zerch around here. Yeah, well, if you still have access to talk to, tell him my story. Tell him I'm a big fan, and he blocked me. Same with Kurt Busiek. I'm a big Kurt Busiek fan, and believe it or not, he used to actually post on one of my. Remember message boards around 2005? Message boards were the cool thing. I ran a message board. He actually joined it. We had 35 members, and I'm talking to Kurt Busiek. And now I go to talk to him on Twitter, and I'm blocked. And they're complaining that comics don't sell. Guys with the disposable income to buy as many comics.
It's a weird time.
Right. But the Lucent, I'll still buy. You don't block me. You talk to me.
Thank you. Yes. I don't block anyone. I don't see the need to do it. If people want to talk crap, I can just ignore them or mute them or whatever. For the most part, the internet's going to internet. And you never know who's having a bad day or who's just disagreeing with you for whatever reason. It doesn't mean, we're all here trying to make comics and enjoy comics and share our hobby and passion.
And it's just comics. And people are getting
it is.
It's just comics. Don't get me wrong. Comics are important. Comics are a big deal. Like, I'm talking to an Australian. I always say comic books are one of the original American art forms. I think, comics are as important as baseball and jazz as far as I'm concerned. But the bottom of it, we're talking about Spider-Man in long underwear, and people are ready to fight and destroy careers. And
I say that every week. To my friends, I'm like, can you believe this is all happening over comic books?
I love fighting over comic books, but I want to fight over can Batman beat Spider-Man, and could Wolverine beat the Thing? That's what message boards used to be. Man, and I used to get so mad. There was this one guy, Batman could beat anybody, and it doesn't matter who you put in the forum, he would drive to the point you would just
figure out his weakness.
I'm going to work the next day trying to be like, I gotta the Thing. Batman can't beat the Thing. Okay. And then he would it was frustrating, but it was fun, we used to I was always in the Captain Marvel camp. Captain Marvel, Shazam could beat Superman, and guys would, oh my God, I guess I was a bad guy or whatever. People would argue with me, but
disagreeing on the internet.
Well, that was fun disagreeing. You know what I mean? That was fun disagreeing. I got to direct with Graham. Yeah, Graham Nolan's great, and the Shinu was excellent. I very rarely say this because comic books are their own relevant art form, but the Shinu would be a great movie.
I have, unfortunately, I'm a big fan of Graham. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to back any of his books for no reason other than just shipping is really high. And
I didn't even think
I was over, actually met Graham in Tampa, and I was at the Tampa Bay Comic Convention on the second day, I think it was on. We got there. He was already all sold out. So that was it. I was like, oh, okay. But Graham's a great guy.
Yes,
really respect him.
Yeah, great guy. I don't think I think he lives quite close to me actually too. I keep thinking I spotted him. I'm like, that's Graham. Oh, what a phenomenal!
You can't miss him. He's the like ripped guy in.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like I don't want to bother him.
Big smile, super friendly.
Yeah,
very down. For who he is, he's very down to earth.
And that's another thing. Like, we're the bad guys over here, right? We're the Comics Gate guys.
Right.
And I got to say, we are the friendliest, most helpful group of people ever.
That's right. If you were lumping a guy like Graham Nolan in with the bad guys, might be time to sort of rethink your position there. I mean, I can't think of a bad thing to say about the guy.
No, not at all. How long have you been doing your YouTube videos?
Started in late 2019, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You got a great following. Yeah. And I only started 3 years ago. So 20 late end of 20. And I got to say, everybody, I don't know what I'm doing. I joke around that I'm not a boomer, but I might as well be. I don't know technology.
Oh, I'm a massive boomer too.
And these guys, everybody's been helping me. I'm going to be crowdfunding my own comics. Who guys have been giving me free advice and helping me. And, and I just, sometimes I don't even ask people. Just like, hey, buddy, I like you. Here's this, here's that. You know, this guy will do this for you. This, and I'm like you said, if we're the bad guys, then how do they act over there? You know, no. Has anybody canceled?
Well, I think they project. That's
right.
my working theory, and very rarely do they ever disappoint. In all aspects of life, politics, comics, eventually the mask slips and you get to see their true self, and everything they've been accusing you of turns out they for the most part seem to be guilty of. So I don't know. I try not to actually get into any kind of heated disagreements online with individuals, because I think it can end up being a real waste of energy and time. I just state my piece, and then move on.
I figured my wife and I were talking, and we were talking about our cats. We're both cat people, and sometimes I'll pet my cat or whatever, and then they bite and they run around or whatever. And I'm like, well, a cat just goes around its life. It's just like a cat doesn't know a human, like to a cat, my cat's thinking, he looks at me as just a big cat. You know what I mean? And so a cat projects like, uh-oh, I did this. It's going to react this way and whatever. That's what you just said. They project like these horrible mainstream SJW people. They can't imagine, like their characters are all self-inserts. So you could only imagine they think that their interactions, like this guy's going to react the way I would because I can't, for all this empathy and compassion that they talk nonsense about, they don't have the ability to be empathetic. They're all narcissistic sociopaths. So they project
and
how they would be.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
and there was that video that came out the other day from Tim Sheridan. There was one thing he said in it that I think really just shows how, okay, we're coming at this from a completely different place, so we're never really going to agree, and that's everybody deserves to see themselves in a comic book. I was like, that is just not how I've ever approached this. It's just we have different reasons for wanting to read comics, so we're not gonna meet in the middle there. That's not what comics are for to me, and I don't want them to be like that, and I'm not interested in reading comics for that reason.
No, absolutely.
We're at an impasse.
Right. Like when I read comic books, I want to read about Spider-Man doing cool things. When I read about Batman, I don't want to read about me. I know me.
Yeah.
You don't want to read about me.
I wouldn't put that onto people.
Right.
So you don't want to read about
$2.99 to read about me.
Yeah, and that's it. And I was thinking about that. I think about these sorts of things quite a bit. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. He's Peter Parker, actually.
Right.
And when I jumped in 91, sure, comics, they go here and there. That's the way they go. But I really felt like I was reading the same Peter Parker that, came about in 63. Or was it 62, whatever year it was?
Yeah.
And, he'd grown up and he had a history. His history was real. I felt that it was actually written into the thing. And the editors would put little lines like, go back and check, Amazing Spider-Man 304 or whatever. And that would be there. And I was thinking about the Peter Parker now. I'm like, that is not the same character. No. That's someone's idea of everybody needs to feel seen in a comic, superimposed or given the name of Peter Parker as if that's supposed to be. And I'm just like, no. Don't want it, not interested.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, what I liked about Peter Parker is he had real problems that I could relate to, but they weren't the same problems. I didn't have to take care of my Aunt May. I didn't have to worry about an elderly relative, but I understood the drama that created, and I understood the tension that created, and I understood, that this was a real problem. This wasn't Superman like, Kryptonite's going to come and destroy. I can intellectualize that problem, but it's not a real problem. Spider-Man dealing with Aunt May and the loss of an uncle. I didn't have that, but I'm a human being, and I thought that was so cool, and I really liked it. I didn't need to project myself onto Peter Parker. I didn't need Peter Parker to become me because he was a real enough person. You know, just like I can empathize with my buddies. My buddies have completely different problems than me. You know, I don't have any kids. One of my buddies is going through problems with his kids. I don't have kids, but oh my God, I'm biting my nails. Are you okay? Do you need any help? You know what I mean? You know, and that's these people
yeah,
aren't.
I was an 11-year-old Australian boy reading about who at the time was a grown married man who spent his days at a job he hated and his nights out fighting supervillains, and then at the end of that, after he got his butt kicked and somehow scraped through on the skin of his teeth, would come home and bang his hot wife. And I loved it. I thought it was the best thing ever, you know, and I was 11 years old. And I'm like, I didn't want to see him as a young 11-year-old struggling through, I don't know, is he going to get his homework finished? Like, no.
Yeah. And Captain America was this, Captain America to me, he was an adult. He was like the ultimate adult. You know, Captain America wasn't me. Yeah, he was a leader. He was like the best of soldiers and politicians. He was like the best that America had to offer, and he was an ideal. I didn't want him to be me. He shouldn't be me, and it would be wrong for me to be Captain America. You know, and I think that's why they destroy Captain America every.
We're at an impasse. Yeah, we're at an impasse with them because that's current DC and Marvel's whole agenda is everyone deserves to be seen in the comic, and we're not going to come to a agreement on that.
No, so. that's not even an issue. That shouldn't even be on the table. Like, I imagine there's a table with like, what do we need to make a good comic book? You know, nice colors, nice art, nice right. Somebody put, like, I'm thinking index cards being put on the table, and somebody picks up one that says everybody deserves. You know, that's not. You know, that's like, that's like, I'm trying to think of something disgusting. That's like putting, I don't know, whatever, pineapple on pizza for some people. It just is not a consideration. You know, that no, you fundamentally don't understand comic books if you think that that's what they do. You know, so I'm so glad you said that. I look at this. Comics broke me, revealed everything about the industry, people not getting paid, false promises, low paybacks, and it was all from within. You know, like Jamal Igle saying, I'm going to have nothing to do with, I forget who it was that just went to comic. Meanwhile, he was talking about how he had to lie to freelancers about pay rates. I'm like, dude, you're the problem. You should have stood up and said, I'm not doing this to my fellow creators. And then you're going to tell us that we're the bad guys? But whatever.
Oh, and then you're going to warn young guys, young gals who are looking to crowdfund their own stuff. Well, don't market it to the bad people over on, you know, in the Comicsgate crowd, because then you won't have a chance to even get into this industry. Well, yeah, don't
like
threaten
what your boy Zach says. Guys on death row still buy toothpaste.
Yeah, I always like that line.
Yeah, that's a great line.
That's so great because it goes so far beyond comics. We are like, that was very prophetic too, because now we're at a point in greater society where that is a real thing, where it's like people are being made to disavow things and put political stances into things that were never political before. And it's political
purity test. It's a bad way to go ahead in the future. It explains the hair. I'm human. This is the first. Oh yeah. Again, I was sorting comics, lifted comics. I didn't get a chance to look beautiful for my fan base.
You're forgiven.
IBO, Captain Longbox, IBO, make it happen. There you go. Yeah. Punk rock storm on a poster. Seeing yourself is overrated. I know. Polishing the flatware on the Titanic. Yeah, I seems like everybody's agreeing with this. I don't know. You don't usually get this negative, huh? I kind of dragged you down.
No, I talk about this stuff quite a bit. I'm usually in my shorts and stuff occasionally. We did a stream about this actually just yesterday, responding to Tim Sheridan's tweet. But yeah, look, I do try to focus as much as I can on hyping up what's going on in the creator-owned scene. Which is hard because it's hard to get people interested in that sort of stuff, but we do our best and we punch above our weight. So
you were just launching what's it, Justin's the other day.
Yeah. Oh man, we had so many launches this month. What was it? There
And the
was
Mythicals, you with Hojo.
Mythicals,
Yeah, I was on that stream.
Dojo. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've got Omega Mission coming up from the Don in a few days.
I just had him on my channel too.
And yeah, he seems cool.
Oh yeah, as a follow up to what I was saying, I got disillusioned with Marvel and DC, and I was like, now what do I do? You know, I've been collecting comics since I learned to read on comics. You know, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a limb was coy. Zach turned me on to all these fundraising comics and crowdfunded comics, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and now Fund My Comic. And I was like, is this real? Like, how you know, it was like a rabbit hole. Now I'm more excited than ever. Like, every time I turn around, like I just backed Jimmy Palmiotti's comic today, his cowboy comic. You know?
Oh yeah, that looks great.
Yeah.
It's a real interesting time. It's the Wild West. There's tons of issues, but there's tons of excitement. It's like a whirlwind, and every year is different. I've been in this space since 2017, either following along or being involved, and every year has been completely different to the last. But I think overall, bit by bit, people are learning how this is going to work, how it can work, what doesn't work. But along the way, I've got, that whole row is crowdfunded books, and then there as well, that row there. So, and yeah, some of it is amazing, some of it is fantastic, and I can't believe I've snagged some of this stuff. Others, it is what it is. It's like these are a lot of people's first tries. Have a lot of people talk about how they got burnt on crowdfunding comics, and I believe them, because I'm also waiting on a ton of stuff that never came through. But for the most part, like 95%, I feel really happy that I've gotten involved in this, taking part, and proud to be sort of a bit of a name in the scene.
I guess I lucked out because I've gotten everything that I've backed, and what I didn't get back yet is still within a reasonable amount of time. I'm not worried yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is lucky. Yeah, I guess, especially back in the original day, in the old days. When I say old, okay, I say original day. Okay, crowdfunding existed a long time, but when I got into it, there were a lot of people who just came in and like, oh yeah, this is great. Look, there's so much money. I've never made a comic before. I'll just put up a cover, and they got $50,000 or $100,000, and then they realized, oh, I have no idea how to actually do this, and yeah, we're still waiting.
Oh God, I remember. I think it was like 2014 or so. I was at work, and my partner, I'm a comic book guy. I don't care who knows it, So I'm talking, and the guy I work with just goes, my next door neighbor, he's making a comic, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. He goes, but he does it on crowdfunding. This was like 2014. He goes, he makes like $14,000 an issue, which back then was
wow. That was huge in 2014.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta call up Kenny and find out what his neighbor's name is, and find out what this comic is, and talk to him, because if it's true, Kenny could be a storyteller. But if it's true, he's one of the first guys. And I was like, that'll never work. That's ridiculous. Who's a stable business? Which brings me, do you think there's legs for crowdfunding? Do you think this is going to last? Is this a fad? I know you invested in it.
It looks very much like it can work, but it's so complicated, and there seems to be so many moving parts. And I mean, it seems to make sense. At least the initial premise did. Put something up, and if people want to invest in what you're doing, and then they get a reward out of it, it seems like there's no risk here. But then what eventually happens is people get burnt on that, and now they're saying, well, now I want you to have the book already done before you even do the crowdfund. And that's where the risk comes into it. That's where it sort of makes it a little bit more unknowable, but that's where the audience is pushing towards. So I hope it can. I don't know. The scene, like I said, the scene is changing every year. So I really like the system, because it allows people like myself, who I started making a webtoon in 2015, Found your boy Zach in 2017, found Ethan Van Sciver in 2018, realized, oh, there's this whole scene just, booming at the moment. I jumped into it in, I think, 2019, 2020. But before that, I mean, I'm just a guy. I had no Twitter followers, no YouTube followers, never made a comic before. No one had ever seen my art or read my stories. So it allows me, it allows me to kind of be alongside people like Kenneth Rocafort and Graham Nolan. And I was like, how did that happen? So that is pretty magical just in and of itself.
Yeah. Part of me thinks it's great because, like you said, it's no secret I'm working on a comic myself. I could talk directly to the customer. I could get direct feedback from the customer. This cutting out the middlemen, so I can sell less. Like, that's one of the things the mainstream's joking. You only sold 2,000 copies. Yeah, but your boy Zach made what, 30 grand on those 2,000 copies. How much did you make on your X-Men last month? You know what I mean? Between Diamond and Marvel and whatever. Yeah. So yes, it's a different apples and oranges. You know what I mean? But I'm excited that you could do that. You could talk directly. But what I was saying about the direct market is, you would tell them a story of you and your mom and dad walking through. I'm picturing kangaroos hopping around.
Sure. Yeah.
And everything, because that's Australia to me. The comic books.
Yeah.
And you got recruited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you didn't walk into a comic book store. When I was working at the comic book store, very rarely did a new person walk into the comic book store and all of a sudden, like, you know what, this is great. I'm buying one of these. I'm buying one. So I think even less people are just gonna, you know what? I feel I got $30 in my pocket. Oh,
yeah.
Wow, comic books. Oh wow, I like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, part of me is a little bit nervous, but I don't know. But
no, you have a right to be nervous. It's the number one concern that I think all of us have, because we understand that unless you're growing your audience, and we've seen this at all levels, from guys who make a lot less than me all the way up to Ethan and Eric July. Unless you're massively growing your audience from campaign to campaign, you are losing backers, because that's just the nature of it. I call it the churn. People can call it whatever they want. People just, you can't retain those sorts of numbers without some sort of outside momentum. And but everyone feels it at all levels. You have to somehow figure out a way to get new people interested in what you're doing, and no one's figured it out.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to take a multi-pronged sort of approach involving conventions.
Yeah, I hope you don't think I'm being accusatory. I'm asking, I'm asking because I want to know.
Yeah.
I love comics.
No, I think about this all the time. I used to talk about it a lot more. I used to have a show with a friend. We used to talk about this stuff quite a bit. I did my first convention last year. More people are getting back into that now that the pandemic is behind us. People are following up their crowdfunds with some direct market stuff. Mixed success. One of my friends, Adam Lawson, is having huge success with it. Sold over 100,000 issues of his book Exiled. Others have had less success. One of them he's here in the chat, put his book on Barnes and Noble. That sort of stuff. It's going to be that and all of it. But I think the missing ingredient at the moment is a story that just hits huge, and I'm talking a Walking Dead type success story to come out of crowdfunding.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
that'll come out of this scene, wherever it is, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Comicsgate, not Comicsgate, doesn't matter. If it comes out of crowdfunding and it hits the zeitgeist, that's what it's going to take. All that happens, it's
I agree with you 100%. Like, I keep, when I see stuff, I'm like, is this it? Is this, because look, these guys were making 500 copies of something, 1,000 copies, they and then all of a sudden and then boom, independent comics have been around ever since.
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
right. It takes one big hit, like yeah.
Mike Barron says that all the time, because this question gets asked a lot. What's it going to take? How do we reach more people? And he says it every time. It's like amazing, compelling stories, and so we focus on that primarily. It just it increases the chance that one of these incredibly written, compelling stories is just going to be in the right place at the right time, being the right story, which is what Turtles was. And it's just like,
you got me excited again. I started to talk myself into a little bit of and then you just pulled me up. So thank you. I like this comment over here by John. He says, indie guys making 20,000 a year, making things they love while working part-time, full-time job, while less stress for total whatever. Two big guys making 40,000, stressing about an employee going on. I understand what he's trying to say. Like I have a full-time job. I'm a construction worker, and I'm making a comic book because I want to make a comic book. I love. Oh, you have a full-time job too.
Yeah.
May I ask what you do? You don't have to.
Yeah, no, I'm a graphic designer.
Okay.
Well, I consider my YouTube a part-time job, because I work on it every day and I do draw an income from it. I do my day job, which is 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, make the comic in the rest of the time. And it's a full slate for me.
Yeah. It's funny because it seems like these days YouTube was just a hobby, and now it's turning into a part-time job, which I'm thankful for. I'm not complaining. People have been asking to come on my channel, which I'm amazed people even want to talk to me. But yeah, I'm a construction worker, so I come home tired, and then people and anybody, this goes out to anybody in the chat, anybody, if you got an active campaign and you want to come on and talk, I'd love to. First off, you love comics, and second off, I'd love to promote. I think again, maybe you got the comic that Michael's talking about. That'll be the one to, and it'll help all of us. Rising tide floats all. But yeah, and I am making money on YouTube. I've been doing this for 3 years, and I just crossed the $35.98 threshold. So there you go. That's how much I made on YouTube in 3 years. Yeah, I'll
keep
take
grinding.
It's
possible. Look, no, for real.
And they said it couldn't happen.
I'm not shy about this stuff. I worked incredibly hard on building my channel. I think it's about to pass 19,000 subs.
Good for you.
And I make 4 figures on YouTube every month, have for about 2 years. So that has been an absolute godsend. And I really think I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I really wouldn't be able to without the channel. So it's possible. And I whenever people start talking about comics, I always feel like I'm the least knowledgeable guy in the room. I was there. Yes, I was there in 91. I was collecting and everything. I'm collecting back issues. I've been in all of that. But I never really got into DC, so I don't know a lot of the characters and the lore and everything. So whenever people start talking about comics, I always feel like the least knowledgeable person in the room. But I own that. Honest. I'm just like, hey, this is who I am, but I love this stuff, and I was able to build a channel around that. So if I can do it, and I'm an introvert too, if I can do it, I see this space here. I live in this space.
I joke around. I'm going to die in this chair, and then I'm going to haunt the people that move into this house afterwards. I finally.
Yeah. So if I can do it, really.
So you're an introvert.
Anyone can do it.
I'm an extrovert. My wife is an introvert, and she's like amazed that I could just come on here and talk to strangers, for an hour, and then at the end of it, I'm like, that was fun.
No, I do enjoy that. It's something different. It's something about the computer screen. It makes it work. And plus, if we share interests, it's so much easier. And,
yes, yeah. I'm not just hitting a spinning wheel and boom, and then somebody comes up and they want to talk about, I don't know, makeup products and
yeah. See the eyes glaze.
Yeah, so it's a little bit easier, because I also like host board game meetups. Like I used to do it on Sundays, but then I've been doing this YouTube, and I'll just go, and the next thing you know, I'm teaching board games to complete strangers, and we're playing, and joking.
What have I got
but,
here? I've
but
got
we have
Camel Up. I've got
good game.
Ride.
Ticket to Ride.
I've got Code Names. I've got I think there's a Risk. What one was it? The Game of Thrones version. We have a full cupboard of board games in the house. I'm an amateur, but no, we love them in this house.
You're too far away. I'd invite you over. But yeah, these are all board games behind me.
I've been looking at them and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I love them.
If I turn the camera around, it's just walls and walls of board games, and then behind here is a room full of comics. So board games, comic books are my two things.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I moved here because I had to get out of New York City during COVID. It was just insane. So I moved here, and then I built up this room. I got a big board game table and everything. And my wife was like sad. She's like, "Look at this. You finally have everything you want, but you don't know anybody." I said, "Don't worry. Now I got board game nights 3 nights a week. I met a whole group of people. So,
if you build it, they will come."
Yes, and that's the way I feel about crowdfunding. I'm going to make a comic, and I guarantee you're going to like it. You're going to like it. Now, can I get the word out to a bunch of people? That's the problem. But if it's in your hands, you're going to go, "This is awesome. This is a good comic."
Hell yeah.
What does he say? I saw a game. I play Hero Quest remotely with people. I love Hero Quest. People say it's old fashioned, but it's a great game. So you said
I've never played it.
Oh, Hero Quest. It shows its age, but I guess so do I. So I guess
the long gray beard will do that.
Yeah.
21.
What you said, you weren't a DC guy. When I was a little kid, I wasn't a DC guy either. I didn't get into DC until 1986 because DC was always goofy and silly. Like the time that the X-Men had the Hellfire Club's story going on with all those adult themes. DC still had stories like Wonder Woman, we got to go to Jupiter and get the magic pixie sticks to come back to you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, if you like comic books, you like DC, that's for babies. And then you become an adult or a smart guy and you like Marvel. But then the crisis came and, I thought.
I've heard great things and I believe all of you guys. It's really just a matter of priorities at the moment for me. Like I said, I explained my sort of daily schedule. Unfortunately, I barely have time to read the creator-owned books I'm getting these days. I have to force myself to be able to read their stuff because, I bought it and I want to know what it's all about and everything. It is so tough when you're working a day job, drawing a book, writing a book, crowdfunding, promoting.
Yeah.
It's just like impossible. But I listen to a lot of people talk about the sort of things that they love. So I guess all I can do is vicariously enjoy this stuff. Through their glowing passion.
I'm doing this. I scan all my comic books. That's what I was doing when I got lost track of time this afternoon. And I got 53,000 comics, and then I have 22 long boxes of comics that I haven't read yet. And like I'll be 55 next month, and I'm like, I'm going to die, and there's still going to be comic books I didn't read yet. So I try to make myself read at least 5 comic books a day, and I don't always do it, but I just try to make time to read comics, every day.
I'm making a real effort to do the same now. And because what I want to do is I want to talk more. I think that's something that's missing in the scene is I want to talk more about these comics that we're making, actually talk about the comics. I've done it a few times where we do, like I call it, a deep dive where I go through the book with the creator, but it's so few and far between, but I really want to do
that's
that.
A great idea. That is a great idea.
They've been quite popular. I did one with Ethan. We had 400 people watching. It was amazing.
Ethan was, back to people being nice. Ethan Van Sciver doesn't know me, and Ethan Van Sciver is a millionaire. I think one of the greatest living comic book artists, excuse me. And he comes on my channel and we talk for 2 hours. He didn't have to do that.
Oh yeah. Ethan is Cyberfrog's #1 fan and will jump at any chance to talk about Cyberfrog at length. I feel like if he felt like it would grow his audience and he would, it would grow his channel and everything, he would just talk about Cyberfrog the whole time. He understands that's not quite how it works. But I've jumped at the chance to get him on because his passion and enthusiasm for his own story is really infectious. Obviously, I really loved it. He was gracious enough. He sent me a advanced copy of Wrecked Planet, so I got to read it and give him my feedback. I'm not a great critic. I know he wants people to kind of pick it apart and give him critique and stuff. I'm not really good at that. I've had the Diaz brothers on with the Lost Pages. I've had Eric Weathers with Battle Brick Road on, but I got to read more of these books and get more people on to go through them.
I got Eric coming on in a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Yeah, he's one of my good friends.
It's when you talk about critiquing, I don't know. I don't consider myself a critic, and people are like, oh, that was a good review, and I don't really think I review comics. I just talk about comics that I like.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, I did exactly one negative showcase, as I call it, and it was an example of why I don't want to do negative comics, because I don't want to read them. But there was just one egregiously bad comic, and I'm like, this is why I stopped with Marvel, and so I did a negative review. Leave me alone. But I don't. If you see the Loosen on my channel, well, okay, good. He's going to say some good stuff about it, because there's one guy who asked me to check out his comic, and I didn't make a video, and I think he's like, okay, all right, because he's a good guy. I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I don't want to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I've been hesitant to do it, because I've had the exact same thought. If I don't talk about your comic, then I guess how I felt about it. So, it's sort of a review by proxy.
Yeah,
you kind of get that feeling, but I think it's just too positive a thing to turn your back on. Is let's talk about these books. I went onto a channel, Well-Read User, who does critique. He does actual reviews and stuff on his channel. We talked about Johnny Phantasm. I think it's great. I think that's sort of the last thing that this YouTube scene is missing, is more talking about the books and the stories in them. So I think I'll make a concerted effort next year to do more of that.
Yeah, you want to come on talk about old Avengers comics? I'll talk your ear off. You're gonna have to turn off the camera to get me to stop talking. I want to talk about comics. I go to work. I want to talk about comics. Yesterday we drove 5 hours to my niece's wedding. I want to talk about comics with my wife. That's what I want to talk about. I don't care anymore about politics and small talk. I want to talk about comics.
It gets like that.
Cranberry Langers asks, what was the terrible comic? It was Secret Avengers number 10. If you look at my playlist, look up Avengers, you'll see Secret. It's
just skipped.
Yeah, it got people liked it. People said it was funny, but I don't want to read those comics. I could understand why Zach stopped reviewing comics. First off, it cost me money, and then it cost me time. We talk about how time is a precious commodity these days, and then I got to be miserable. And then I got to talk about I'd rather read this again. I'll read this again with some great Kelsey Shannon artwork.
Kelsey Shannon.
What's that? Yeah, Kelsey.
Love that guy.
Yeah,
I met Kelsey in Tampa as well.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It was like a magic moment. There was a crowd of people, and I'm just standing there where I'm about 20 feet away from him, and I just hear this, "What's that smell?" Well, I can smell a bogan. And he just comes over, and he's this huge guy. I was great. It was fantastic meeting Kelsey. He's a great guy.
They talk about having like for the Fans Fest and everybody meeting up. Oh man, I would love that. I have Pete Sabetti on my channel every once in a while, and I keep joking that I want to, because I figured out, well, I'm trying to brainwash them, that I'm geologically in the middle of all the alternate comics guys. I'm like, we could all meet at my house. You're the
center of the web.
Yeah, we could all sit there. And then I play role-playing games, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a bunch of us guys all over, like, and you roll up your character and we play a role-playing game, like, Pete Sabetti's King Cryptid, you're the Lucent, and everybody's playing it, and I'll make up a story. That's what I do when I hit the lottery. I'll invite you over.
Set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, meeting up was amazing. Meeting fans and other creators, it was a real highlight of this whole thing that this whole journey that I've been on for 5 or 6 years. I'm definitely coming back. It's a bit of an issue that I'm in Australia and it's going to cost me, $5,000 to get over there every time, but it's a tax write-off, and I can. It was just such a positive thing. Whether it's next year, people are going to C2E2, people are going to Vegas, wherever they're going. I'll see what I can swing and get back out and meet people, because
I think Vegas is probably the logical choice, because it's just easy for everybody to travel there.
Yeah, and I play poker, so
no,
I was like, oh, I want to go to Vegas.
Are you any good?
Yeah, I used to play for a living. I was doing that before I started.
Really?
Before I started my comic, yeah.
Wow. When I do these talks, I always try to look at the guy's face that I'm talking to see, like, do they not want to talk about this? I try to read the room. I can't figure you out. I don't know if we're having a good time or a bad time. So you must make
I'm having a great time. No, that's probably just my weird face. Yeah, no, I played poker since 2007-ish. Started playing professionally after 2008, 2009, after the financial crisis. Lost my job. So I was just like, I was already playing sort of semi-professionally already. So all right, let's just go full time on this.
Wow.
And yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. Make a lot of money. It's cool having a lot of money. But I had this. Yes, Don't give a young man lots of cash, and in Australia. In Australia, exactly. In Australia, winnings are tax free, so you're just kind of living off the grid. But more than anything, I have always wanted to create and do something, so I just started feeling this tug on me to, do something a little bit more real. And eventually, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to work and then start on the comic. And yeah, that's where I'm here. And now, funnily enough, I'm back playing poker once a week in the lead up to potentially going to Vegas next year, but we'll see.
Wow. Bill Willingham, who does Fables, he was a professional poker player at one point also.
Really? I didn't know that.
I would love to see you versus Willingham. A poker game.
Check that out.
Yeah,
it's look, I think it's a great game. It's really severely misunderstood out there in the greater world, but I was just playing the other night and had a great old time. It's a heartbreak though. It'll get you.
Oh man. I couldn't play. I mean, I understand the rules of poker, but I have so many tells. I'm a very expressive. So like, yes. You get a card. I got 3 kings. I'm like this. There's no way.
That would give it away. That's actually where a lot of my skill comes from. I think is being able to kind of know what someone's doing from just playing with them for a few minutes and get a measure of them. So
yeah, I'd play cards with you and I'd be going home, with the comic book covering myself. Hi everybody, it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's what a lot of people do. They like pull the hood over and they,
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And I know I would have a problem. I play nickel and quarters with buddies and stuff, and I never win, but it's more of like hanging out with your friends. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's just like playing board games.
And the same, same with board game. But I never won. My grandfather, this guy would turn into a zombie the moment you put a card in his hand. Nope, no expression, nothing. You can deal the card. No talking. You know what I mean? And
that's me.
This guy won. Oh my! But I was a little kid. I didn't realize that half of poker was reading other people's faces. I was wondering why Pop was always beating me. I was convinced he was cheating, but I was just like a little kid, like.
Well, that's what it's like. Actually, sometimes we would get invited to other friend groups to come play poker at their places, and yeah, we would destroy them, and they would be like, "What's happening?" Because in their friend group, no one did that, and so we would just say to them, "Look, this is what's happening," and we would run through a hand with them, and they would just sit there, jaw agape, just like, oh, I had no idea all of this was going on. There's so many levels to it. And I'm like, I know you're doing this, and I've got this and that and that. So from all this information I've gathered, I'm putting me at about 78%. So if I do this and that, like, and they're just like, oh, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, well, that's why you're losing.
Yeah. I'm just getting out of the house for a couple of hours.
Yeah. I'm just here to drink and have fun and, hopefully get lucky. It's okay. Well, that's sort of
the only thing I could compare this to is you said you were a board gamer. Have you ever heard of the game Blood Rage or played the game Blood Rage?
No, I haven't played that.
It's a CBON game. It's Vikings and everything like that. But there's a lot of bluffing. You'd probably like it because there's a lot of poker in it, because you got to play a card. Like you get these Vikings on the board, and each one of them is so strong. So okay, I have 14 strength. You have 11 strength. And this card, which card am I playing? And at the beginning, everybody knows.
I like it. It sounds great.
Everybody kind of knows what everybody's card has, but you don't know what else has, because you see them at the beginning of every round, but you don't know what card I'm playing. So there's a lot of like poker involved in it. And I went down to Atlanta for CMON convention. It was the company that made the game, and they were giving away limited edition blood. I can't even speak. I'm getting excited. Blood Rage pieces. So me and a couple of my friends, we went down, and I said, guys, we gotta crush these people. I want these pieces. So they didn't care about the pieces, but so we all sat down and we all played, and we crushed them. Out of everybody, it was me, my friend, and my other friend. We came in. We got the top three. The rest of the positions didn't matter because there's only three. And they gave me all the pieces. I'm like, oh wow, we went to the official company that made this game at their official and came in top. So I was like, yeah, we're the best Blood Rage players in the world. Now
time to take on the world now.
Yeah. And now they have a board game world, what do they call it? The world champion board games every year in Vegas. But it's $5,000 to enter, I think, or it's $500 to enter, plus you got to fly out there. But it's a $25,000 pot. A World Series of board games, they call it. There you go. And it's funny because I'm tempted to go, but then I'll find out how bad I really am.
Yeah, that's it. There's always a bigger fish, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's always a bigger fish. Well. Absolutely.
Well, that's the cool thing about poker is, you don't have to be the best in the world. You just have to be in the top kind of guys at the table at the time, and you're fine. You can make it.
I can't believe I'm blown away that you actually made a living on it,
Oh, a lot of people did. A lot of people still do. And I tell you why. Even after, and the game has changed so much now with YouTube. Back when I started, it was all books written by older guys, and the game had already moved on by then. So it was really kind of hard to figure out. Now they've got internet solvers and all that sort of stuff. But the crux of the thing is, it all comes down to human emotion.
Right.
Why a guy walks into a casino and puts a few $100 down or whatever, money down onto a table and plays. And if you can figure that out, you can figure out why he's there, what mood he's in, what he's doing, you can win. And that never changes. No matter how much you learn, you can increase your edge, you can increase your winnings and everything. But yeah, that'll never change. So yeah, it's actually, if you've got the right temperament for it, you can make a lot of money. And luckily for me, I am probably the most Ned Flanders, mild-mannered, unemotional guy that you've probably ever met. So it's the right temperament and the right attitude. And yeah, as long as you know what you're doing, yeah, you can make serious money.
What's the biggest pot you ever won?
Biggest single pot I ever won, I think, was about 8,000. The biggest pot I ever lost was about 10,000, but the biggest I won in a day,
it hurts, and I'm not even involved,
was 12 when I won a tournament. Yeah.
And
look, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. That's a pot. We're not talking about a night. You probably net over the course of the night or something. Oh man, and you played cards. Like, was it you just went once a week and played cards, and that was enough for like a week's?
Well, when I was playing professionally, it was online and at the casino and at home games, sort of private games, underground games.
Oh.
And yes, it was full on. Now, no, it's I just started again. I go into the casino, I play for 3 hours, and I'm like, I'm tired. I gotta go home.
Yeah, you see, my problem is I don't know. I'm a little arrogant, so like I would be like, I have to play again. I got to beat these guys, and next thing you know, so I get that. My friend took me to Atlantic City. He got something from work, so they gave him a free room, free everything, and he was like, let's go. My wife can't come. So me and Paul went down to Atlantic City. We had this, we were joking. We had that big, long dinner table. Like, this was a nice room, like you ring the bell for the butler. I mean, we didn't have a butler, but we were pretending. And we went down to the casino. We got like comped a couple of chips and everything like that. And I was up $150. And I'm just sitting there, and he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, walk away. And I'm like, no, I could double this. And then next thing you know, I'm down like, 75, which is, really nothing. I spent $75 on a free weekend to Atlantic City, but I'm like, I can't walk away,
Yeah, no, that's the difference. So that right there is the difference between the winners and the losers. It's temperament, it's attitude. It really is 90% of it.
Yeah, so I realized that playing poker, I'll just write you a check. Here you go. It's faster.
Just sit down and
we'll play risk instead.
Just take it. Let's go out and have a beer. You can just take all the money. Let's go out and enjoy it.
We'll save the time. You want to play Ticket to Ride instead?
Yeah. The train game, we call it in this house.
Oh yeah, it's a great game. My game groups don't like it. They think it's too simple. But I was like,
well, I got an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, and he is now old enough to play, a game about as advanced as Ticket to Ride. And yeah, we're more into the simple games because we got to involve the kids, and we're looking for that. Yeah, that sort of level stuff, and we love it.
Froze again, but so it's you, your wife, and your 2 kids playing games a lot.
Yeah,
that's great.
We even play poker. But no stakes. We just
play for M&Ms and eat them in front of them. There you go.
Actually, I beat my son last night, and I said, "Well, you lost, so you have to pack up the chips." And he was not happy. He was crying. Is like, "No, I want it." Like, hey, you lost. You got to pack up the chips.
Do you let your kids win any games?
No, never. No, because eventually they beat me. My daughter is a champion jiu-jitsuer, and she's 11. And the last time I rolled with her, I couldn't beat her. And I'm a 200-pound, 5'11" guy, and she's I don't even know what she weighs. She's skinny like a rake. But she's strong, and she's like a spider monkey, and I couldn't pass her. And I was like, all right, so yeah, I know I've never gone easy on them. Running races, the other day I was racing my 6-year-old, like ready at the 100-meter race. I just took off. It's like one day, and it's not going to take too long. He is just going to sprint right past me, and he'll be so happy when he finally beats his dad.
I play games with my nieces and nephews. I don't crush them, but I don't let them win either. And if they do win, they earn that victory. I think I don't think it's a good idea. Like a real young little baby, I'm just happy if they understand how to play the game. But my niece Emily, she wanted to play Candy. She knows I like games, but she was real young. She's like, Uncle John, you want to play Candyland? I'm like, okay. So my wife and I are going to play Candyland with her. How old was she? 3, 4 years old? I don't even. How old?
4.
She was 4 years old. So like, okay. And she's like, Uncle John, you can go first. And I could just see she poker tells. She's like all giddy. So I knew she did something. I was like, no, Emily, you could go first. You're the youngest. And she's like, no, you go first. So she set up the cards so that every third card was the card that she wanted. A little pain in the ass.
Cheaters never prosper. All right.
Yeah. Now she's in her 20s, and the last couple times I played games, she's like, I always call Dexter's little sister, the ballerina girl, whatever her name is. That's what she's like. But then she plays and she beats you, and she's like, okay, that was fun. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's freakishly good at all these games. But I like to think it's because I never took it easy on her.
That's it.
Oh, Matt Bear's here. Show me your collection. If you want to work in comic books, the first question. So Mike, you're sitting down at my table, and I'm the editor for Marvel, and I'm like, okay, you think you got what it takes to write Spider-Man, Michael? Okay, show me your collection, and you better like take out your phone or photographs of long boxes. These bent, dog-eared old Spider-Man comic books. I'm like, okay, now we'll talk. But if you can't do that, then you got to leave.
my Spider-Man collection is, I think, pretty respectable. I have some huge key issues, but there are a lot of gaps in there as well.
Yeah.
When I stopped buying new stuff, I went back. I bought all the stuff I could afford, which was, I started at the whole Web of Spider-Man run, grabbed all that, which I loved. I love that era. Peter Parker, I got most of it. There's still some I don't have, but I was talking with Yellow Flash about this. He's nearly got all of Amazing Spider-Man. I was like, oh my God, what a run to have. Like
Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man came out just as I was getting into, so that was my Spider-Man, because I got that from number 1 on. Amazing Spider-Man, I just bought it, and my friends were like, oh, you see, like, I'm looking for a comic book. Like, do you see over here, there's a number over here. That's issue number 2. You got to get issue number 1. You got to get issue. And I didn't know that, So I was like, oh man. So I stopped collecting the Amazing Spider-Man because I didn't think I'm going to start collecting from 176. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but Peter Parker I got from and then when Web of Spider-Man came out, I was livid. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. I was like irrationally livid that they did another. Now they expect me to get another Spider-Man, 40 cents. What am I made of? And I refused to buy it.
I was like that. I was like that when that's what drove me out of comics originally. When I was a kid, I was like that. They introduced another Spider-Man, and then they had all the different X-Men, and I was like, yeah, to get comics, I didn't have a job. I was 13 years old. My mother would give me some coins to catch the bus and get something to eat at school that day, and I would walk and starve, and I would collect that money over a month. And I would take this big pile of coins and dump it on the counter at the newsagent at the end of the month and walk out with a stack of comics. That's how I got my comics. So when Marvel tried to start gouging me to buy all these titles that I was not interested in, didn't want to read because it was part of some long, big arc that wasn't even that good, I was like, I'm out. And I just like, well, I'm going to save my money and just get back issues on my birthday. And that's what I ended up doing.
Matt's giving you some crap over here.
I can't look. When I read so much of this stuff when I was 13, 14, 15, I can't vouch for how much like what I actually really love now, because it's been so long since I've read almost all of it.
Cam saying he's sorry. Cam's a buddy of mine from my comic store. As much as I think I know about comic books, you got guys like Kevin Ryan and Cam that could,
Oh yeah. I didn't even
bigger fish. There's always a
I didn't even pretend. It's like the slogan of my channel is I'm speaking from a place of ignorance. I hope in the chat you can educate me, because I'll say the wrong stuff. I don't know stuff.
I make mistakes too, but as long as you're humble about it and you got a sense of humor, like a little sense of humor goes a long way. A little self-deprecation, I got caught saying the wrong thing more times than I could count, but I blame that on my dotage at this point rather than the
linking up, because we talked about poker and we talked about Spider-Man, linking up those two things in 2000 and 9, I think, I won a poker tournament. The first thing I did with all that cash is I jumped onto eBay online, and I started looking for an Amazing Spider-Man #1 I could get. And I couldn't find one that was at a reasonable price. And unbelievably, in Australia, I found the guy selling Amazing Fantasy 15, and it wasn't crazy expensive. And I was like, how is this? Yeah, I got it. And I was like, how did I get this? And so I called the guy up because I'd been burnt on some expensive books before. So I called the guy up and I was like, what's going on? He's like, I need to sell. I'm going to be straight with you. There's a coupon cut out of the back cover. There's this and that. And I was like, but like he sent me high res photos of it. I was like, sold. It's such a great looking copy.
I went through a period of buying collections.
My wife thought I was nuts, but now she's happy about it. Because like, look, it just keeps going up in value.
You know, I around like, I guess like 2005 to 2010, I was buying a lot of collections, and it's just like, oh, you're going through a divorce? I'll be right there.
Yeah, it was like that.
I feel so bad for you. I'm getting
this guy. I could hear it in his voice. I felt bad for him. He did not want to sell this book, but he had to. I don't know what. I didn't ask what was going on, but
I'll tell you. I didn't tell this story for like 10 years because I was always afraid, like, you know, somebody was going to catch up to me. But I was a school teacher at one point, and there was 2 teachers in each grade in the school, and my co-teacher, you know, she was trying to start a family, so she was doing a lot of tutoring, and one of the girls that she tutored was like, look, the house was a hoarder, so they had boxes and everything like that. This girl's like 15, 16 years old, and she's like, these boxes are older than me. I don't even know what's in these boxes. And they opened them up, and it was filled with comics. And my love to see these comics. She goes, well, I never even knew these comics were here. So she tells me, I show up. It's everything Marvel put out from Amazing Spider-Man 15 up, in chronological order, in near mint condition. I'm like, oh my! And I just started teaching.
Holy Grail.
Yeah, I was just like, I'll give. And I'm trying to adopt poker things. I didn't want to be like, so I'm like, hey, you know, I'll give you $1,000 for it. I'm trying to be cool. And she's like, oh, okay. So I thought I lost, you know. So 2 months goes by, and I'm just like, wow, man, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. There's this comic book collection. I got to get this comic book collection, you know. And then finally they called me up. They're like, come down. So my little brother and I, we drive to the house, and it was drizzling out. So we got garbage bags and everything because we didn't want them to get wet. So we're taking out the box, and she's like, you got 15 minutes. So we're taking the boxes out. We put them in garbage bags. We put them in the car, and I give her the cash, and she's like, okay. And she and her friend are rearranging the rooms. And then I realized she didn't tell her mom. You know, she's just selling me all these comics, you know. And I'm like, Mike, let's get out of here. My brother's name. So we drove home, and, you know, I'm like pulling down the shades when we get home. And it was funny because I borrowed $15 from my father for gas because that's how broke I was. So when I walk back in the house, my father, you know, old guy, he's holding the phone like this, and he's talking to my Uncle Frank. And he's like, my asshole son just borrowed $15 for me to buy gas to buy freaking comic books. And my brother Mike takes out one, Iron Man #1, Dad, this is worth $1,000. And then he goes, my son just bought a fortune in comic books. You know, and it was everything. Like, I got every Amazing Spider-Man from
a dream.
Up. I'm only missing 2 issues of Fantastic Four. I got every journey into, from 83 on, Journey into Mystery, you know, Daredevil, you know. And here's a funny story about Daredevil #1. I was in a comic book store going through the boxes, and this kid came in with a bag. He was like, hey, you want to buy some comic books? To the owner of the comic book store. And the guy goes, me buy comic books? You got to buy comic books. Why do I want to buy comic books from you? You know, you look at the kid's like, all right. So I was like, I wonder what that kid has. So I go outside. I'm like, what do you got? He's like, you want to buy comic books? I'm like, yeah. He opens it up. Daredevil #1 in like the glossiest. I showed it to my buddy Mike, and he's like, oh my God, this is the best Daredevil. So I was like, how much you want for this? He's like, like $25. I was like, you got it, kid. Here's $25, you know. And then I walked in. I was like, hey, Kenny, look what I just bought for $25. He was like, and I'm like, as I'm in my car, I'm like,
God.
This kid stole this from his dad.
I used to dream of stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. I know.
The only story I had that was remotely like that is a guy was selling Amazing Spider-Man #4. It was a pretty ratty issue, but it was Amazing Spider-Man #4. I mean, anyway. I was gonna buy it off this kid for like $20 or something, and I was almost literally handing over the money, and my friend was looking in what was that book that that thick book that used to come out that had all the valuations in it?
Overstreet Guide.
Overstreet.
Yeah.
And it's this kid. He's like, oh my god, it says this book is worth $400. And the guy literally just went ronk and took it back, like almost out of my hand. I'm like, you. He was never invited over again.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Cam says you turn into an ambulance chaser if things get out of hand. I had such a fear of having a heart attack, and then my wife just like, get this crap out of here. Get this. So I showed her my database. I'm like, this is how much my comics are worth. Because like I almost said Clint Eastwood, like Charlton Heston said, you'll get these comics out of my cold dead hands. So
I hope you have a very comprehensive insurance policy there.
It's funny. We're shopping for a new insurance company right now, and I'm documenting my comics. I'm actually making a YouTube series. So if there's any problem with the insurance company, I can be like, yeah, look.
Yeah, that's not my my father-in-law was like, yeah, you take photos, videos of everything.
Yeah, that's what,
because
when a couple of years around 2015. I was like, we're gonna move. Let's buy a house. And then I was like, I guess I got to sell my I always said when I'm gonna buy a house, I'll sell my comic collection. So there's a couple of shady guys and whatever. So I'm not gonna mention this guy's name because he's big in the comic world. But he shows up at my storage unit, and he had a shoebox, and he's looking at my comics. I'm pulling out all the it was all organized, so I'm showing him all the key issues and stuff. And he goes, I'll give you 40,000 cash. And he opens up the shoebox, and I just said, what a coincidence that you evaluate my collection at 40,000 and you just happen to bring 40,000. I said, I know my collection's worth way more than that. And he was just like, well, I was like, no, I got to say no. And I swear, if I had a cell phone, I would have called up my brother who lived around the block and be like, there's a guy getting into a white Hyundai over here with a shoebox full of 40,000 cash. I'm just saying. I'm going to McDonald's.
Yeah. So. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there, But
think of it what you will.
And then the mortgage people were like, well, thank God you didn't do it, because if all of a sudden you just deposited 40 grand into your bank account with I just sold some comics, they would have turned you down for a mortgage. So it all worked out for the best.
Good to hear.
Yeah. And now now I got a house, and like I just walk around in the back room like, oh man, who needs friends? I got Spider-Man, I got Thor, I got Doctor Strange. And which is why I'm joking, but this is why I take it so seriously when I see what modern Marvel is doing to Reed Richards. I almost want to fight somebody,
Yeah, what they squandered. It was I probably think I was probably the last generation of like young kids that really were really into comics heavily. I don't remember the kids that I knew after that really getting into it. They had everything. They had it all. And they had these characters that were so famous. And even the ones that weren't that famous would eventually become super famous with movies. But they just threw it all away. And now it doesn't, even if they were to somehow, just decide, okay, we're stripping it back to just these core books, and we're only hiring the best artists and the best writers. Unfortunately, the culture is not the same anymore. I've been to France where children, adults, and the elderly all read comics. Now, they read their own French comics, but it's part of the culture. They never let that slide. So it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. I got into European books, which is actually what sort of inspired my own book more than the American stuff. I picked books like these up next to the shampoo in supermarkets.
I just bought Blue Coats, which is what,
different animal,
French or Italian translated into, it's about the American Civil War, and it's a European comic.
Mm. Yeah, it's
and
crazy what they're
the
doing.
European comics are great. I just bought Rio. I'm looking over here, but it's under a stack of comics. I don't want to pull out a Rio. What else did I get? So many.
That's something that Kelsey Shannon and I have geeked out over a couple of times. He has a big collection. I have a modest collection, but I try to get them as much as I can. But yeah, that's actually really sort of the model that I'm most interested in moving towards. The only thing that's missing is the culture sort of surrounding it, of people investing in, okay, you get like a book a year. It's a big, nice, glossy, long hardcover, whatever. You follow a different kind of story. They do have sort of superhero-esque stuff, but it's more historical or science fiction or stuff like that.
I just find it funny how many Italian comics are about the American West. When the Americans, Jimmy Palmiotti's the only guy I know doing a comic about the American West, and we're America.
Yeah. I can't explain it. I don't know. I don't know the culture, the Italian culture that well, but it is weird.
The spaghetti westerns, the Italians love the American West since I was been alive. They, with Clint Eastwood movies, El Cigarro, they used to call them.
Yeah,
but I think you're right though. You probably have a better model than I do, because you said you want to do like a European style, like one artist, one writer, take your time, give out the best quality you can, and release it when you're ready, which is what these guys do in Europe. I want to make floppies. You know what I mean? So I'm a dinosaur. I don't want to adapt. I like what I like. I want to hold up a floppy comic book that fits in the bag, and I could mix it in with my general.
I can tell you, there's a lot of people out there who would love to see that happen. So if you can pull that off, go for it. There's a couple of people who are doing something close, but certainly, Mark Miller's having big success with his image books, and if you can do it, do it. I personally, I couldn't do it, but look, like I said, no one knows the best way forward. Now we're in this crazy time in comic books, so
I wanted to try what Cranberry Langer said over here. They destroyed Reed, meaning modern Marvel. They destroyed Reed Richards, Iron Man, Steve Rogers, Cyclops, Xavier, because they were the moral. I'll go even further. They destroyed Reed Richards because they were like the fathers. They were like, like Xavier was the father figure of the X-Men. Reed Richards, the father figure of the Fantastic Four. So if I may self-promote for a second, my comic, the first character coming out is the Patriarch, and that's his name, and he's a Superman type, and he's married, and he has children, and he's a good guy, and he has a strong marriage. It's kind of a response to what Cranberry Langer says over here. Like, I don't like the fact that, like, in Marvel and even DC, like, even Superman is now a bad dad, and Lois Lane is raising his kids, and Bruce Wayne with the Bat family is the absent father. Like, what's going on with all you people making comic books? My dad was a great
abusive father.
My wife's dad was a great guy. I never met him, but the way she talks about him, he sounds like a saint. Like, I don't know. Over here in my house, we love fathers and fatherhood. So
I think that's the norm. I think that's probably still the norm out there. It's just that's not the narrative that has kind of taken hold of the entertainment industry writ large. So it's all about deconstruction and pulling down institutions like the nuclear family and fatherhood and all that sort of stuff. So we see that time and time again.
I don't like this term, but it's the only thing that popped. It's like cultural Marxism. They destroy the West, so they can rebuild it in whatever crazy image that they have.
I believe
Cam
that.
is asking, Cam is asking, do they follow IPs in Europe? Yeah, they do. They got a like Blue Coats, Asterix. They got long
Lucky
running.
Luke.
Yeah. Why can't I think of the Western one? Is driving me crazy. I don't want to pull it out because I know I'll knock over all these. But yeah, they have long running for decades. of the character that's a bellhop, Rin Tin. I just bought a Rin Tin collection, stuff I wouldn't be buying if Spider-Man was still any good.
Yep.
Yes, Kevin Ryan, Bronze Star for Mike Barron and Pat Broderick, two legends, is a Western. Yes. Oh, and I didn't know Razor Fist makes Westerns. If somebody...
he's got a book with George Alexopoulos. Oh God, the name is escaping me now.
I didn't know. That's good to know. I the older I get, the more I like Westerns. I grew up watching them with my dad, but now
I still think there's there's a lot of story. There's a lot of different stories that I think are left to be told in the Western genre. It sort of died for a long time, and it's making a comeback. It's I think stories that are popular are reflections of what's happening at the time in the greater culture. So there's clearly something in Westerns that are missing in today's culture, and probably
well, I'll tell you what it is.
And honor and
rugged individuality, solving problems with violence. You're
living off the land. People.
Yeah. You don't need no government. Independence. Yeah. That's not in favor right now. So I think you're right. I didn't think of it until you mentioned it. That's probably why the Western is kind of.
Well, in the crowdfunding space, I'm seeing a lot of these sort of like barbarian type stories coming through. We've got Crom and Cordrath and a bunch of others. Like people are wanting to read about these big muscly dudes who are out there slaying dragons and saving women.
The pendulum swings. We had years of bemoaning toxic masculinity, and maybe RJ and Adam Smith are tapping into the momentum that's coming back. I always hated toxic masculinity because, like, you look at all of the gang violence and all the criminals. These guys, they don't have fathers in the house. It's like they have the opposite. They have like toxic femininity in there. You know what I mean? For me stumbling over my word.
Yeah, it's a big shame. They try to ascribe to all men what the behaviors of less than 5% of men who are, as you said, the product of fatherless homes.
Well, that's groupthink for you.
Culture
that's a perfect example of groupthink, and I think comics. I was reluctant to use the term Comicsgate for a long time because I'm not much of a joiner. I like one-on-one I'll talk to you, but like if I go to a panel and there's 13 squares, I kind of just sit there like this and be polite. I don't know, but I'll talk to anybody one-on-one, and I felt like we left mainstream comics and now we're joining another group. What are the rules? And I don't want to deal with, but I look at Comicsgate. It's more like I don't know how much you know about American history, but it's more like the Confederacy rather than the United States. It was like a loose confederation of like-minded individuals get together. What goes on in Virginia goes on in Virginia, but that doesn't bother New York and that doesn't bother Connecticut because and that's the way I look at Comicsgate. It's a confederacy rather than the union. I don't know.
I see it as sort of the tip of the spear, and I think history has proven me right. Because, as we said about earlier, a lot of the kind of mainstream types who are still in the industry are now starting to say the exact same stuff that Comicsgate has been saying for 5 years now, at the same time that they're blocking you for wanting to talk to them. Comicsgate is messy. It's crazy. But that's just what happens at the tip of the spear. Comicsgate, got out in front of this and, stood up and copped everything because of that. But that's just how it is. At the same time, I've never been one to say you have to be Comicsgate, you have to declare, and Comicsgate should only associate with other comics. Like, I'm not about that. It's a hashtag. You can call it a movement if you want. It's a group of people, whatever it is. It's a crowd. It's an audience. All of that, we can all have those discussions. I think they're kind of pointless. Let's just focus on making awesome books and fighting back against what we can all see now. And you notice that everyone's saying it now. All of a sudden, oh, look at this, everything. We're all seeing it now. So
Cam was saying what I was poorly so many people say things that I'm thinking so much better than me. This comic get created was the first one that jumped up to my channel when nobody. Yeah, he's absolutely right. That's the turning point when I'm like, yeah, I'm Comicsgate. I'll become. Like these guys embraced me when I first started to do live talks. I went out to people like Kurt Biasek, and I'm blocked. And now I got Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver. They calling me John, sending me into messages. They know, but the good guys wouldn't talk to me. So creation, we're the Frankenstein's monster of their creation.
That's my experience. My experience, and I've been involved in CG since the very beginning as well, and has been almost everyone that I've run into has just been people who really love comics, and they have their opinions about it, and they fight about it, and they fight each other, and then they do this and that, but really at the end of it, they're pretty passionate people, passionate about comics and passionate about doing comics the right way. And people might disagree about what that is, but I think it definitely doesn't involve the identity politics, Marxist nonsense that has just taken over and destroyed, in my opinion, what once was called the big two and no longer can be, because manga is, it's not even a comparison anymore. It's kind of a joke now.
Yeah, identity politics, like it destroys everything it touches. It destroys cities, it destroys nations, it destroys comic books, it's destroying Dungeons and Dragons, it's destroyed Star Trek, Star Wars. I do think that the pendulum is swinging. I
think so too.
I'll turn on my computer and the Yahoo News will pop up, and I'm seeing news reports that I agree with for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah.
Is that an airplane?
Yeah, sorry about that. We live next to an airport. Sometimes it sounds like I'm being bombed, but I'm not. It's just small prop engines flying over the house.
I get a little excited, guys at work, that disagreed with me for 10 years, like they come up to me like, yeah, you were right about this, you were right about that. So I do think that the pendulum is finally swinging. Anything you want to talk? I don't want to keep you here.
I've got to actually run.
I didn't realize we talked for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was a great discussion.
Thank you. You are definitely. I could definitely see you as a poker player, man, because through these things I stare at the guy's face just to say, like, okay, is this guy cool? I don't know, man. I cannot. You see, right now you're smiling, but for the most of the talk, I'm like, I think I'm ticking this guy off. You got a great.
No. I've had that impression on people for a long time, where people say like, "Oh, Mike doesn't like me," and I'm like, "We're having a great discussion." I just have that face, I think. I just want to shout out my channel, Michael Bancroft.
Sure.
Head over there. Comics, conversations, crowdfunding, all that sort of fun stuff. I'm actually about to go live in about 15 minutes. We're going to do an art share, which is a weekly show where I just check out awesome art that I've found, mostly from the world of comic books over the last week. So thelucentcomic.com is where you can grab my book. It is still funding. I'm currently working on it, working hard. I'll be working on it later this afternoon. What
time is it there?
Follow me in. It's about to turn 12 p.m. midday.
Okay.
The following day. So it's Sunday.
Okay, you're in the future
right now. You're in the future.
Yeah.
I would let you know the lottery numbers, but we have a treaty. It's the
I know you don't want to break you break the
time continuum.
They take you out in the back and have kangaroos jump on you. I know the law. So I gotta ask you then. Do you like Vegemite?
No, can't stand it. I have a
first time I could read your expression very well.
I have a recollection of eating it on toast when I was very young, 3 or 4, and just kind of getting halfway through it and thinking, what am I doing? I was only eating it because that's what Australian parents give to their kids. No, it's just, I remember I was like, I don't like this. I don't want this. And ever since then, I've kind of developed this real hatred for the stuff. And I don't understand it. It's everywhere, though. It's ubiquitous. My kids don't eat it, though. They can't stand it either. We've broken the cycle, the terrible cycle of Vegemite.
Right? I heard it was like scraped off of beer barrels. Like, to me, it was like a desperation food. Like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna eat this.
But it is.
Why not?
That's how it started. I think it started as a because the beer production continued through the war, and they were looking for anything. So yeah, that it's a yeast. It says it right there on the thing. Yeast extract.
They couldn't
That's
put
not appetizing.
Less appetizing. Leftover crap from a barrel.
to be fair, I watch these videos of Americans. They get it and they lather it on a piece of toast. I'm like, you are playing with the devil there. You do not do that. A lot of Australians will put a thick thing of butter and let that kind of melt into the toast, and then just very lightly scrape over the Vegemite. I think, what's the point anyway?
Yeah.
And that's how they eat it. So don't lather. It's not Nutella. You're not going to enjoy it.
I don't like Nutella, but you're going to be surprised that I was so, because the men at work, she just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich. I sang that song for years. I'm like, what is Vegemite? So Amazon is great. I got myself a big old jar of Vegemite, and I slathered because they like Vegemite sandwiches. I thought I was gonna die. Oh my god! And then my wife is Canadian, so she's like, "This is how you make Vegemite." So we made proper Vegemite sandwich. I could tolerate it once in a blue moon, but
so good when you're not feeling well.
Yeah, and she's like, when if I feel like a cold is coming,
medicinal.
Like, let's get some Vegemite.
Yeah, not my thing. No Fosters, no Vegemite. I'm a VB man.
Yeah,
that's my beer.
What city do you live in?
Melbourne.
Oh, you live in Melbourne. Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's the it's unfortunately become the kind of Portland, Oregon of Australia,
oh, really?
But it's still still really nice people, nice place. It's comparatively around the world, it's still a fantastic city to live in.
Yeah,
expensive, but where isn't it these days?
Yeah, I live in New York. It's unbelievable expensive, unbelievable. I had to get out of the city. It was just ridiculous. I live in a neighborhood with no sewers and no sidewalks. I had to get away. No blue.
Well, the thing about living in Australia is if you're not in a city, you are kind of living off the land. We have a few major cities and some little hub towns and stuff, but other than that, it's just a vast land of nothingness and some small rural towns here and there. So we don't. Most of Australians, like 85% of us, live in suburban.
Yeah, I heard like 80% of Australians live in like 15% of the land. Like almost.
Oh, it's way less than that. Yeah, it's just on the edges, and it's mostly on the east.
And on the top, if I remember, it's jungle, and then the middle, it's like a desert, right?
Yeah, almost all of it is the outback desert, and then there's pockets on the coast, and there's rainforests up top. It's flipped, so you flip the US. You get the tropical at the top, and the temperate on the sort of more at the south and on the east.
Yeah,
and then the rest is just desert and things that want to kill you.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys have the most dangerous animals in the world. I read about the jack.
Well, thankfully they don't live where we live. So I mean, if don't go swimming with sharks. Don't play with bright blue octopuses. Don't swim in crocodile infested waters. Don't pick up the snake. Don't poke the redback spider, and you're pretty good. You're fine. It's not that difficult to survive.
I was doing research for a superhero character. I wanted to make an ant character, and I read about the jack jumper ants of Australia.
Oh
yeah. I was like, oh man,
bull ants and fire ants and jellyfish as well. Yeah, that is true. Where I grew up in the far north in Cairns, for a large portion of the year, they would tape off the beach because it's like, no, you can't go on there. You'll die.
Really?
So Anyway, John, I do
Yeah,
have
I
to
know. I
run.
could talk.
This has been a
I
great
always say goodbye and then
conversation.
talk for 20 minutes. Thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed it. Check out the Lucent. I put your links in the description. If I missed any of your links, message me and I'll gladly put it on. I thank you so much for coming on. I like that you promote everybody, with their comics. I think that's a great. I don't know what to call it. Great service. Great companion, whatever. And I can't even think of the word. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you're doing a good job. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. And everybody was like, John, you got to talk to Michael Bancroft. And now I know why. This was a pleasure. I had such a great hour and 45 minutes went by in 20 minutes. That's what it seemed like. Me too. With your poker face. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.